Good afternoon.
Hi. So we've been talking about the retreat that the Portland Shambhala Center Council had almost 2 weeks ago. And it was really different kind of retreat in the sense that we didn't, it wasn't a kind of, it was much longer than what we've done before. It was our first retreat. And it was, so we had more time together, and we also didn't do business in the same way. Although, as you point out, the business part was very useful. You want to say something about that?
Yes. As governing council, we were faced with a really difficult question, really with no right answer, with a lot of complexity and a lot of potentially big consequences. And so we had to discuss it together. And I thought it was a wonderful exercise that really brought everyone's unique wisdom. Everyone saw a different facet of the situation. And we were able to kind of bring in the more kind of bottom line logistical details, but also really bring in a higher kind of law level wisdom about, well, where is our integrity, and how do we want to handle this as a spiritual community rather than simply as a nonprofit.
Mm.
And so I found that experience of being with council in that way very valuable. I wish that we had more time to do this kind of work.
Yeah. And then we reserved 3 hours for set of questions that were kind of more about mission and what we're doing, and deeper questions that were lifted from an Otto Scharmer book, which, we copied those questions, and then Janie and I kind of crafted them, modified them to meet our purpose. And
Otto Scharmer is a colleague of Acharya Hayashi.
That's right. And here are some of there were 5 questions. We didn't really get to one of them. So we thought that this video, in the remaining 5 minutes, we'd kind of talk a little bit about what was the question like and how did it work for us. So the first one was introduce a personal story with 1 or 2 formative experiences that shape the person you are. And it was very striking how very different we are, different generations, different experiences coming from different places, and how completely intimate it was to tell a story about why I am the way I am. And each story had this kind of moment of aha, or maybe a gap of seeing the world. It was very, very poignant.
What I found most poignant was the second question about what you experience that is ending, dying, and where do you experience a world that is beginning or wanting to be born. And we really were speaking about this in relation to Shambhala, though one of the council members brought up the state of the earth right now, and that was also very poignant. And I think many of us were experiencing something being born, and also really feeling a lot of fear and possibly grief or sadness about what feels like something that might be dying in Shambhala. But what really came out was that we're maybe in a state of limbo and tension right now, because we really don't know what is happening. Do we need to grieve? What do we need to grieve? What is dying? We don't even have a consensus right now in our community about what is dying versus what is being born.
That's right.
And that was really poignant to experience together.
There's also this big question about what does grieving look like at a community level, and the nature of Portland Shambhala is that we can't all get together at the same time. We're in different places, as you point out. And so it's kind of like the grieving that You know, I think that people who are very, very attached to the way things were have one kind of grieving to do, and people who, you know, it's kind of like there are a lot of different themes of grief, but kind of how do we bring that all together is this real difficult question, you know, because we don't experience the same sense of dying, much less the same sense of what's beginning and wanting to be born.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes in my moments of optimism, I feel like what's wanting to be born is the real Shambhala, the Shambhala that really needed, that the world really needs, and that the difficulties that we're having around clergy abuse and, you know, whether those accusations are legitimate or appropriate, and, you know, all this kind of conflict about what does that mean, you know, learning to handle that could be a way of exercising something so important and so profound.
Yeah.
So that kind of leads to the third question, which was, you know, about root causes. And, you know, as we said, there was a lot of diversity around, you know, views of what our current crises and divisions inside Portland Shambhala, in Shambhala as a whole, and between Shambhala and the world, you know, like, I mean, one root cause that struck me was that there were very good reasons for Shambhala to look inward, to try and translate teachings from Tibet, from a long and rich tradition, into something that made sense and would work in our time. That's a very difficult job, and part of our solution was to kind of close off a little. But that has real risks and dangers.
Yeah, and I mean, and there was also, you could say, like a solidifying of the Shambhala identity that happened, and Shambhala is as being separate from other traditions, and, you know, separate from the rest of the world, even, you know, maybe not even Buddhism anymore, which folks have said, and that separation now makes us very vulnerable in this time, I think.
Vulnerable and fragile.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
there's a lot more to say on this one.
there is. So my proposal is that we stop.
Cliffhanger.
This is a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
And we come and
stay tuned for the next chapter.
Yes, that's right. Okay. Bye.
Okay.
Let's see. How do I stop this?